Hi everybody, welcome to Art Smart, National Telefilm Associates, as you can see here, and in a second you'll also see UM&M TV Corp present this cartoon, Christmas Comes But Once a Year. Why does it say that? Why does it say those two different distributors here? When actually this was a film created and distributed under Paramount by the studio, the Fleischer Brothers studio. Well, this is one of many films that are in the public domain. Those two distributors basically quickly made a fast buck in the 1950s, sending these films that the Fleischer Brothers made all over the country to independent film stations. And they made a quick fast buck, and then they didn't care about the films anymore, and they went into the public domain. And so we are able to watch this and many other cartoons because of National Telefilm Associates and UM&M TV Corp. So as a cartoon fanatic, I'm actually somewhat happy that they made that mistake of letting so many cartoons fall into the public domain. I certainly have benefited from that over the years. I used to see this film along with several other Fleischer films at kind of awkward times, usually very early in the morning on TV stations, like public television stations, independent stations, UHF stations, and I really enjoyed watching this when it would come on. You'd get excited when your favorite cartoons would just happen to pop on, and this one came up pretty often. Now, this particular film may be a Christmas film, but it's one that I enjoy watching just no matter what time of year it is. It's one of my all-time favorite films, regardless of its subject matter. I think that it's a very well done film, and it's one that that does a good job of talking about a term that Walt Disney actually coined, which is the plausible impossible. And when I say Walt Disney, I mean his studio. What does the plausible impossible mean? In the 1930s, the Disney studio figured out that if you were going to have action on the screen of a cartoon, you definitely wanted to make sure that the impossible things that cartoon characters could do felt plausible. Even though it's a cartoon world and anything can happen, if you don't set things up in such a way where it feels believable, the audience stops caring very quickly. So in this particular cartoon and many others that are kind of copying Disney's style, they are trying to make all kinds of impossible things that happen on the screen feel like they could happen within the cartoon world. As long as you make it feel like it could be true, the audience will accept it. The Fleischers in the 1930s were definitely trailing Disney, and this particular film and many other films in the Color Classic series, which this is a part of, were trying to copy Disney. They were trying to have a lead character here with Grampy. They wanted to have a really nice song. Christmas Comes But Once a Year is a great cartoon song, and they are trying to make you feel something in this cartoon. And I think they do a pretty good job of succeeding. But Disney was definitely leading at this point, and the Fleischer Brothers were trying to catch up to them. Unfortunately, though, in 1942, the Fleischers kind of fell apart. And you'll hear in another cartoon commentary that I do at another time why the Fleischer Brothers kind of fell apart after 1942. Anyway, in this particular film, which is 1936, you see Grampy thinking about how he's going to help all these kids, and you're going to see him do all kinds of fantastic things to make it feel plausible that he could take normal household things and make them into all these fantastic toys. I always enjoyed watching this as a kid, and I wanted to try some of the things that Grampy did. Of course, none of this would really work in real life, but they make it feel like it could kind of sort of happen. Yeah, you feel like maybe you could, with just a few additional things that Grampy doesn't have, you could maybe make these toys work. And if you give me a second, or the cartoon a second, you'll see what I'm talking about. As Grampy somehow makes all kinds of toys out of these very basic things. Now, this first toy that you're going to see is pretty believable. You take a washboard and you basically utilize a couple of pieces of metal on the bottom of it and it turns it into a sled. That seems pretty simple and fairly plausible, although I don't think we could just spit nails in the way that Grampy just did. But it gets increasingly less likely in real life, but still exciting to look at. Taking a roll-up blind and turning it into an airplane here. It feels like it could happen. It probably wouldn't work. In fact, it's not going to work. But it feels like it's close. And within this cartoon world, it's quite believable. I love that he just kind of sticks an entire mechanical mechanism inside that feather duster and somehow turns it into something. It's fantastic. And this cartoon is just overwrought with these great ideas that the Fleischer brothers came up with. Grampy actually had a series of cartoons. This is the only one that they did in the Color Classic series, but there were a lot of black and white Grampy cartoons that came out after this. I don't think any of them were nearly as good as this cartoon, but they all kind of had the similar thing of Grampy taking objects and kind of inventing all these fantastic new inventions. And it all feels plausible. And in that great Disney fashion, making a cartoon feel like it could happen, even though in reality it probably could not. You see him, somehow he just rips through the cloth there and turns it into clothing. But it feels like it could happen. They set it up in such a great way that it feels like maybe somebody could turn a sheet into a Santa Claus outfit. And it's just fantastically done. I do think that there are some little gems here. I think it's great, that little animation that they did there with that little kid looking up with a shaking head in despair. It's very well done. If you watch this child that's driving this vacuum cleaner, I love that look on his face, like I'm turning here. It's really well done. A lot of people criticize the Fleischers for having kids that are generic looking, and this cartoon is no different. All these kids are basically, they look the same and they're very generic. You can't even tell if they're a boy or a girl. But ultimately, in this particular cartoon, I don't think it really matters. In fact, the fact that they're all kind of generic almost helps them to a degree to make the kids not stand out too much and Grampy stand out more. I loved that whole percolator bit, by the way. As a kid, I always thought that maybe that could work. It felt believable, and even though I'd never seen a percolating coffee pot like that. Of course they existed, but I didn't see them in the 1980s and 1990s. Anyway, you see all these generic kids having a great time, and really they just kind of fade into the background, and Grampy as a character stands out. He doesn't have a lot of character animation. You don't see him doing a lot of personal things, but he definitely stands out here by the fact that the other kids are generic and he looks less generic. But anyway, hopefully you enjoy this cartoon. I think it is a fantastic cartoon, and hopefully you will continue to art smart. Bye-bye.